Yeah, boy.
Do you think Outward is just too hard? Way too many skills to choose from, and trying to figure out what to use in combat is just impossible. But what if I were to tell you there's a build out there that deals really high damage and requires 0 brain power to use? This is the Mad Doctor build. It makes combat extremely simple, while also letting you take down monsters in seconds. Let's check it out. Walk into my trap, you little peon. Come here. Insta-death. Our weapon of choice for this build will be the Jade Lich Mace. This is not going to be used whatsoever for actual melee combat. We only need it for the negative 10% mana cost. This is not a great weapon, but it does have that negative 10 mana cost and will help us cast our runes more often. The lexicon we want is actually a basic lexicon because this gets an enchantment that grants it an extra 10% damage bonus to decay. The enchantment is called Forbidden Knowledge, and this will actually improve our trap damage, increasing its decay damage by quite a bit. The armor set you want to take is the Jade Lich set, the full thing. This is a very good set for mana cost, a very good set for extra decay damage bonus, and a very good set for decay resistance. You are going to be completely immune to resistance almost without a boon once we take our faction quest as well, because we're going to be about a 90 resistance to decay. It's amazing for that. The one big issue is we're really weak to lightning, like very. So don't fight lightning enemies or just don't get hit by them, because technically this build insta-kills lightning enemies, but you're also one shot to them. So glass cannon against lightning enemies, do be careful there. But the extra decay damage is going to also buff our runic trap, so we're going for a lot of decay damage. And the armor set also looks like a Mad Doctor, so it fits very, very well with the theme. As for the backpack, I recommend Zorn's Hunting Backpack because stamina cost is going to be the big thing here. Our build has a lot of negative mana cost, so the more stamina we can have, the better. As for skill trees, we clearly want to take the Rune Sage. We want the Well of Mana passive for extra mana, but the most important thing is the runic prefix skill at the very top of that tree. This does a variety of things. First off, this makes runic heal way better. It will also improve our trap, granting it decay damage, and give us the decay damage on the bomb explosion for the trap as well. So we're going to get a lot of decay damage out of our trap that it usually doesn't have if you don't take this. Then we want to take Hex Mage because the Bloodlust passive is absolutely nuts, and we also get the Lockwell's Revelation, granting us much more elemental damage when we're tired. You do not have to use this, but if you do, you get a lot out of it. We also want Blood Sigil from the Hexmage skill tree because this will allow us to get more decay damage. Activate Mana Ward inside of Blood Sigil and you are granted some extra decay damage bonus. Now, we do not have Conjure. Conjure is what allows you to summon a Blood Turret. It would be very cool, very powerful, but I went for Pure Trap. If you want to go for the Cabal Hermit to get that Conjure, I highly recommend that you don't take the Rogue Engineer, the last skill tree that we're going to take. So, if you do want that, switch that out for this. Then, of course, I took the Rogue Engineer passive. This is for Feather Dodge. We're going to get a much-needed reduction on stamina when we're dodging, considering you are not able to block whatsoever with this build because our weapon is always put away. It's going to be pretty important that we're able to dodge and that we don't use a ton of stamina while doing so. So in the end, these skill trees are going to be Rune Sage, Hex Mage, and Rogue Engineer. As for mana, I once again took 3 points only. I almost do this on every single build. The reason I did this is because we do get more mana from our faction quest, and we get more mana from being in Rune Sage, granting us up to about 120, and it's, again, pretty balanced. 130, 130, and 120 on mana. Our negative mana cost reduction is about negative 65 without a tent buff and without a Gaberry Wine. So if you really want to get really high negative mana cost, you could actually get pretty close to 100 by doing that. Lastly, we want to talk about the faction quest, and I highly recommend you take the Holy Mission faction quest. If you do this correctly, you get Purified, granting us 20 decay resistance. If you check my stats, I have 95 decay resistance with no buff. So this makes us very, very resistant to decay. We're also going to get Sanctified Protection. The one weakness of this build is physical resist. Also enchant your armor with Aegis if you really want to do better with that. But that's just nice to have. Then we get Spiritual Communion. Increases the ethereal, lightning, and decay damage that you deal by 10%. Not only is this going to increase our decay damage even more, but it also increases our ethereal damage, which our trap is going to do. So, what's the big thing about this build? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? What I did not know about Definitive Edition is that if you cast a trap, this trap has a high damage. Very, very high damage. And if you take Rune Sage, it gets decay damage as well. Well, the trap did not used to stack with damage bonuses from elemental damage bonus. It does now. So this trap is pretty stupid. So let's check it out and see exactly how powerful this is. Now, one trick I do need to show you is the mana explosion. So, whenever you place down a trap, you're going to use red and then green. If you walk an enemy over to this trap, it will explode, dealing damage. Dealing 30 decay damage and dealing whatever ethereal that it does. Now, you also can activate 2 red runes when a trap is already placed. This is runic detonation, allowing you to deal even more damage, but at the cost of ease of access, because it's a little bit harder to get enemies to run into it. Did you know you can activate both of these at the same time? You're going to want to make sure you place down your trap outside of enemy aggro range so that you can prepare for this. Get the enemy's attention. As soon as they see you, you're going to activate the red rune. You have about 5-6 seconds on this. He didn't see me. Get over here, you stupid. As soon as you are getting them really close to the other rune, make sure you've got your red rune active, one way or another. Walk them over to the trap. Quickly hit red rune, and they take double damage. Not only are you getting the damage from the trap, you're getting the damage from runic detonation as well. So this can be used in mid-combat by placing a trap down and running around the enemy so that they don't aggro into it. Then you chase them over to the trap, and you blow it up again. It's very tricky to get the hang of at first, but once you get used to it, it's extremely powerful and very, very useful. So the next way to play this build is actually a much higher level up. First off, we want to be tired. This is going to grant us some extra damage and also give us a mana regen, which feels nice. We also want to be defiled, which is the almost highest corruption rate that you can get. This grants us a huge boost in decay damage, a massive plus 50%. So we're getting 15%, an extra 50% damage on that trap, and we're also going to buff it even further. So make sure you're not too far from the enemy. Get about right here. We're going to activate Blood Sigil. Now, again, we don't have Conjure if you take the Rogue Engineer, but if you do have Mana Ward, which is what I have on my E slot, you can activate this and grant yourself a new buff called, where is it at here? Gift of Blood. -1 health per second, increased frost, decay, and physical damage by 15%. Now, you'll notice I am taking damage slowly. Luckily, this is the Mad Doctor build, so we're able to heal with Runic Protection and Runic Protection backwards. This actually grants us a passive health regen if you take the Runic prefix, making us much more powerful. So let's see how much more damage we do. These guys are very weak to decay damage, but we do need to run them into it. I have never seen a Mimitor up here. That's kind of odd. Activate the red trap to preemptively cast it. Oh, look at that. I did take a lot of damage, but check it out. You can heal backwards. There we go. We're getting healing. Pork crabs are quite annoying. They got that stupid fire thing, don't they? The massive damage you're able to do with this trap is just ridiculous, so it's quite fun. And then you can heal whenever you want. There's so much here in terms of mana usage and in terms of just destroying your enemy, and you don't need anything except for traps. Don't need anything but traps. I'm gonna place this down. If I can get him to not run into it. Oh, he ran into it. Oh, well. So you're getting a lot of decay damage here. The reason that I chose this armor set instead of something that would boost ethereal, because this armor set's very, very nice for mana usage. People just run around the enemy. Place down traps. It's just hilarious. I love it. Now, of course, this is a Caldera enemy. If you're to take this trap really anywhere else, it completely destroys the game. All humans are very weak to decay. So if you fight humans with it, they're going to die instantly. If you fight something like a Golem, that's weak to ethereal, they're going to die to that too. It's really fun. It's not super optimal, but it's pretty crazy. So once again, right before we go into combat, we pop Blood Sigil. We're going to hit Mana Ward. We're going to go over and plop our trap down right about here. Activate Red Rune. Get his attention. He runs into it. What the heck? Now, to be fair, if you had something like the Blood Bullet or the Blood Turret going off right now, you wouldn't have to do anything else. It actually would be a pretty good idea to grab Conjure if you don't want that extra stamina. I do like having extra stamina on my builds, so it's really up to you if you feel like you can get away with not having it. One thing to be careful of is when you're this defiled from the corruption, you'll see this little bitty red ghost. He'll shoot at you. He's going to show up randomly. And I don't actually know what damage type he does. Let's see what he hits me with. I think it's ethereal. It should be ethereal. We just go over and blow him up. So, not too difficult to deal with on this build for sure. Now, of course, with the decay boon, we're going to deal even more damage. I haven't had that active this entire time. And we can't end the video without testing it against some mere humans who die to decay damage. Walk into my trap, you little peon. Come here. Ugh, insta-death. Oh, almost got the Ice Witch, too. Now, Runic Protections is very, very strong on this build. It gives you a lot more stats than it does if you don't take Runic Prefix, so make sure you have that up as much as possible. Really great. Look at that. That's very cool. Honestly, if you want to get the most out of this build, you're going to have to learn the trap detonation little trick that you can do, because it's going to allow you to get the extra double damage and actually efficiently fight stuff in Caldera. But even without that, it's a very simple and fun way to play the game. You just place a trap down everywhere, walk people into it, and you win. So in the end, if you're looking for something super simple to do, you will need to kill the Jade Lich in order to get this armor set. But once you have it and you get this enchantment on the Lexicon, you can use all this other extra stuff to really buff your damage and go crazy with this. I actually am only tired. I could go very tired and get even more elemental damage. So this is a pretty interesting idea. I like that Trap actually scales with damage now. And it's my first little experimentation with it. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I will catch you next time.